Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got a few free minutes here and I'm working on this CJ5 Snowblower Jeep again. And you can see I'm running the stainless steel lines around the back overload spring hangers there. Had to do some creative bending to get around those. And it's got to put a strap right there. But the real problem on this particular project is that center brass T that goes right here. Your lines tee into it, and then the brake hose takes off from the other side. And on this dually Dana 70, it was common to have 1/4-inch brake line on there. And when I got this axle, there was no brake lines or anything on it. And I'm putting brake lines on it now. I've got the correct wheel cylinders in there. And when it came time to put that brass block in there, I thought I would just go and get a bigger one with 1/4-inch fittings on it, so it would take the 1/4-inch line. But that turned out not to be the case. So let me head over to the bench and show you what's happening. Okay, there's the brake tee I'm talking about. And this is on a lot of CJs. I mean, it's on a lot of rear ends and CJs and whatnot. And your two hard lines come in each side of that, and your rubber brake line with a copper washer takes off from there. And this takes a 3/16 line on each side. That's a 3/8 24 thread on both sides. And right there, 3/8 24. So I figured I could find something that accepted 7/16 24 nuts off a 1/4-inch line and still use my 3/16 brake line. And on that CJ6 record Jeep I have, that had its original brass block on it, which was accept a 1/4-inch line on both sides and the correct hose. So that had it. It was from the factory as a special block. So I couldn't find one with the correct sizes. And I talked to some brake line companies and they assured me they had the right one, and everybody sent me stuff that was not correct. I looked every other vehicle, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, everybody for 1/4-inch lines. And I couldn't find what I wanted, and it got to be a real problem. I couldn't do much there, and there was some correct ones that went to I think it went from the 1/4-inch line to a -3 hose, and I didn't want to start getting into that high performance racing stuff or anything like that. So making the block is pretty straightforward, except for that little seat that's machined in there. I'm going to try and get you in there. See that little seat in there? The size of that seat is governed by SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers, and there's a different size seat for every line size. And I figured no problem, I would just get the correct cutter for that and machine the seat in there and then put the threads in. And there are companies that make that cutter. That cutter is called a J512 cutter, and there's companies that make them. And I talked to some of those companies, and for a 1/4-inch cutter, the price was going to be over $300 to buy one small cutter like that. So I figured that wasn't worth it. And you can get the drawings for that cutter anywhere, because it's, like I say, it's an SAE fitting and cutter. So the drawings are out there, and I tried a couple cutter grinder shops, but everybody was kind of crazy on pricing, and one guy wanted $1,000 to make a cutter for me. So that didn't work, and I was going to use the -3 fitting, and I decided not to. I talked to a good friend of mine, Mike, and you might have heard me mention him before. He's made some tooling for me, helped me build my power hammer, and overall fantastic machinist. And I gave him the drawings, and he was able to make a cutter for me, which I'm going to show you next. There's my block of brass that I am going to make into the correct block I need. And if anybody's doing any custom work, you're doing any kind of custom lines or custom plumbing or different brake line plumbing setups, and you have a need to cut that seat in there, I'll show you how I do it, and I'll show you what's involved, and I'll get a few cutters out here now and a few things, and I'll show you what's going on with that. Okay guys, I'll try and get you in here. I got some light on. I hope you can see this. That's our 1/4 inch cutter, and that's a 3/16 cutter that's still got some heat treat marks on it. They're hard to see. I'll try and show them to you better in the machine. But that cutter is going to go down in there and make that raised seat, and then our double flare will fit right onto that, and that's what makes the seal on your brake lines. So that flare will fit right on there, and then you tighten it down. And it seems like a simple thing, but like I say, the cutters are very hard to come by for any kind of reasonable price. So these were made, sent out to be hardened, and that's what a J512 cutter looks like. And once you have your seat cut in there, you've got another problem, because you've got to get a tap to cut some holes further down in the seat. So I took a bottoming tap, and I think you can see that we undercut the tap in the same way that the seat is, so the seat will fit in there, and that'll cut some threads below the seat. And this had to be done, you know how hard taps are, that had to be done on a EDM machine. When you set up a part in an EDM machine, you got to get a hole through it first, and they've got a machine that's called a hole popper, and that was put right there, and then they just kind of eroded the end of this away with the hole popping machine. And you guys that run EDMs know what I'm talking about, and just kind of ate that away, and now we have a nice undercut in there, and we can cut the brass block. A lot of effort went into this, you know, cutting them, cutting the taps, send them out to be hardened. It's a whole lot of work, and probably not what a lot of people would do, but I just want to show you how things are actually made. Like I say, it seems like a simple block, but there's a lot that goes into it. So this is how I'm going to do it on the Snowblower Jeep, because I want the right block in there, and I want the right hose, and I just want it to look original. Not so much originality, but I don't want to start adapting things to it, because you start adapting things, next thing you know, it's another chance for a leak. So we want the correct block in there and the correct hose. All the stainless lines are in there with stainless fittings on them, and I just want to go the extra mile and make that rear axle T correct. So I don't want to ramble on too much, but I'm going to head over to the milling machine. I'm going to put some layout dye on there and remove some material that I don't need over at the milling machine. We'll start to drill the through holes through there so the fluid can flow, and then I will try and get you some close-ups of that cutter cutting the seat. Okay, not the most interesting topic, but there are some guys out there that are doing some custom work. I've talked to a few guys that were after the same cutter as me and running into the same trouble, and how everything was just wildly expensive. But there's some good guys out there building cars, and I want to show you how the cutters work in case you decide you want to do it for yourself. Okay, hang in there, and I'll meet you over at the milling machine. Okay guys, I just took our tap drill size, 25/64 end mill, and I plunged down 215 thousandths of an inch, and now I have the J512 cutter in there, and I'm going to make the seat right now. I don't think I can get the camera in there, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Just going to go down in there. We're going to go about I believe it's 94 thousandths it takes to make that seat in there, and I'm going to go down there slowly and put some lube on it, and I'll show you what that looks like when it comes out. Okay guys, I've got the seat milled in there, and I've got a 7/16 24 plug tab started here, and I'm going to take this down, get a couple threads started, and I'm going to switch over to our other tap. And right there, I'm sitting on the top of that seat. I'm going to take that out and switch taps, and I'll finish going just below the seat. It's just a little bit of material, but we can get a couple more threads in there, and that way we make sure we get full nut engagement there. So let me change taps out and be right back with you. Okay, now I'm going to cut past there with this other tap, and we'll get just below the seat. It's a process to make one of these, but if you don't have any other choice, there's not much you can do there, and this is the way to go about it. And we're cutting just past that seat now with this tap, getting snug. We're bottoming out. Just keep creeping up on it little by little. Trying to stay out of the way of the camera. Okay, we're there. We'll pull that out, and I'll try and get you a shot of the inside of that. Let me try and get some light on it, and I'll finish putting the other hole for the hose in there, and I'll meet you back over at the bench. We'll take a look at it. Okay guys, there's the 3/16 stock one on the left, and let me try and get you in there. And then I got the one I made on the right. Now I made this one a little bit thicker, a little bit wider, and just overall a little bit more robust, if you will, because I got 1/4-inch lines going in here instead of the 3/16, and they're so much bigger that I felt the block should be a little bit bigger for strength. Now we've got the same 3/16 brake hose going in there. Nice machine surface here for the copper washer, and that'll seal nice. And I hope you can see in there. Bear with me while I try and get you in there so you can see the seat. It's kind of tricky holding the camera and getting light in there. I don't know if you can see the seat that I cut in there. I'll try a different angle. Yeah, maybe you can see it. There's a little bit of a seat cut in there, I think you can see. Let me try and readjust. But anyway, had to change things around a lot on the milling machine, from drill bits to taps to the cutter. But basically the line goes in, obviously, you know, the nut's not down far enough, but that's a 7/16 24 on a 1/4-inch brake tube. And that tightens the line right up, and then obviously we'll really wrench on that to get that to seal, but that's the setup there. It's 1/4-inch line, 3/16 brake hose coming out. That's exactly the fitting I was after. Well, there's still a little bit of junk in there, but let me try and move the camera around and show you the seat that got cut with that cutter. Okay, there's still a little bit of junk in that hole, so you can see the seat as it got cut. There's still some filings in there, but there it is, a perfect seat cut with that cutter. And that 3/16 one with nothing in it shows up pretty good. It's a lot cleaner brass, but I think you can see it in there. So that's what I got. Like I say, I know it's not the most exciting thing unless this is something that you're doing. And it's hard to do without the right cutter, so if anybody's trying to make, like I say, custom lines or anything like that, or a lot of times when guys switch from a single reservoir master cylinder to a dual reservoir master cylinder, there was a different block with the dual reservoir, and if you don't have that, you got to get creative the way you run your lines and stuff. And I'm gonna do a dual reservoir on that on another Jeep I'm doing, and I'll show you how I make that block as well. In case you're switching from single to dual, I'll show you how the factory did it and how I like to do it. But there it is, and I hope this helped at least one or two guys figure out what they're going to do on some of their lines. And just a short one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy seeing some new cutters and some new tools that you might not have thought were out there. But that's how they make these guys, obviously in a production setting with tools and stuff and plenty of flood lubricant and stuff like that. But you can make them, you know, onesie twosie, one at a time, if you have the right cutter. So as always, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, you know, tell a friend. I like to grow the channel, and my viewers is how I do it. So pass the word along, and I will see you on the next video, where we'll be either bleeding the brakes on this Jeep or doing some priming and sealing on the other CJ5 body tub. So that's coming along, and I'll get you a video out of that soon. Okay, thanks. See you next time.